Hey guys, this is Anthony Morganti. I am MrPhotographer.com. I've been teaching Lightroom for several years now, and over those years, I've seen people make a lot of mistakes in Lightroom. In this video, I'm going to share with you the 3 biggest mistakes that I see. We're going to jump right into it. I think you'll agree that 2 of these 3 mistakes are pretty obvious, and one of them might not be so obvious, and we're going to start with that one, and that is cropping. I get a lot of emails from people that send their images off to be printed, and they're confused. They got them back, and they're mixing pixels. It just got the sides cropped off. They don't understand why, or they send it off to be printed, and the lab told them they can't print it unless they have borders on their image, and they really don't understand why that is happening. Well, that's because they really don't understand the print ratios, the crop ratios that are available in Lightroom. And let me try to explain it a little better, and I got a little freebie for you too. Now, first of all, when you're going over to the crop tool and you look over here, you see this little padlock. What often happens is people will unlock this padlock, and they'll have an image like this where the deer is bullseyed, and they'll have that unlocked padlock, and they're just totally ignoring aspect ratios altogether, and they're just grabbing handles, and they're coming in and kind of pushing up and down, moving the image around till they get it the way they want, and they'll come up with a crop something like that, which really is an odd crop. They'll send it off to be printed, and they, let's say, want to make an 8x10, and they're really confused because they got it back and it's missing pixels on either side of the deer, and they really don't understand why that happened. Well, you really have to crop, you have to use a crop ratio for the paper size you're going to print to. Let me try to explain a little better. We'll come in here, and I'm going to relock that padlock. When that padlock is locked, now whenever I pull on any handle, it's going to keep whatever ratio is on this drop down. Right now it's the original ratio. On this camera, this was a DSLR or mirrorless camera, I can't remember. In the description below the video, I'll have a list of all the equipment I used and the settings I used for these images that I'm going to show you today. But anyway, the point is, it was a 3:2 ratio sensor. That means the long side is 3 units long and the short side's 2 units long. If you're going to create a print from that size, and you, let's say, use a 4x5 or 8x10, you want to create an 8x10, with this size sensor, I'm going to lose pixels on either side. There's no way around it unless you distort the image by stretching it out. And of course, you don't want to do that. So you really have to understand these crop ratios. And you can see that there's a number here, a number of them here, 1x1, 4x5, 8x5x11, 5x7, 2x3. Then 4x3, which they have down here in the video section. But actually a 4x3 ratio, a lot of people use micro 4/3 cameras. And this would be the ratio of their sensor. So it's something like that. Now, if you're a little confused about, well, what if you want to get a really large print made and you're thinking of a 16x20 or something like that? Well, you'd have to just kind of do the math and figure out what these crop ratios translate to when you're looking at a print. Or you can, if you prefer, go to my website, and for free you could download a PDF I created. And in this PDF, I have all these aspect ratios that were listed in Lightroom, all the image aspect ratios. So I have the 1x1, 4x5, 8.5x11, 5x7, 2x3, and 4x3 I have listed there. And in those ratios, you'll see then below it, the print size. So these are the prints you could create from these specific ratios where you won't lose any pixels whatsoever. So whatever you have cropped into that size, you'll get that full image printed, borderless print. So I'll give you an idea. So for example, if I decide I want to make a 40x30, I know I have to crop using the 4:3 aspect ratio. So I'll reset this, make sure your padlock is locked. I go to the 4:3 aspect ratio. So this gives me the correct aspect ratio. Again, that padlock is locked, so it's going to need to keep that ratio no matter what. And I could come in and crop now, and that will give me a perfect print for the size I wanted. What did I say? I have super short-term memory, 40 by 30, I think. But either way, that'll give me a perfect print where I will get all these pixels printed. Nothing's going to be cropped out, and you'll be good to go. So again, in the description below the video, there'll be a link to my website. You could download that PDF for free, and hopefully that will help you understand the crop ratios and print size, how they relate to print size a little better. All right, now that one might not have been as obvious, but I really do get a lot of emails on that. The other thing I find is a little more obvious. People over sharpen their images, especially people that are new to photography. I think it's because they have this this wonder of technology, these cameras that probably cost more than they should have spent, like me, and they want to just enjoy that sharpness, you know, but sometimes it just gets overdone. And of course we have the detail panel, there's sharpening there, but one could argue this is the more subtle section of sharpening when it comes to sharpening an image in Lightroom. And what I mean by that is up in the basic panel, we have a couple sliders that affect sharpening to our eye, and that is texture and clarity. And what often happens, I believe, is people will come in with this texture slider and they'll go, oh wow, I could see like the individual hair on this deer, fur on this deer. So they'll push that way up high, and then they'll do the same thing with clarity and push that way up high. Then on top of that, they'll go down to detail and just add a ton of sharpening. And what happens is when we're processing our images with a screen that's 18 inches in front of our nose, our eyes tend to get fatigued, and we really don't notice that it's over sharpened. It kind of looks good. So what I suggest you do is sharpen your image, walk away from your computer for a while, and focus on things that are further away so your eyes could kind of reset and your brain can rest. Then come back and then look at it. And most often I think you'll find it's over sharpened. So you come in and bring everything down. Now, what I suggest you do when you process an image is start with the tone and adjust highlights, shadows, whites, and blacks. And if you need to adjust exposure, do that as well. And don't even adjust contrast yet. So do that first. Then I suggest you go down to detail and don't adjust sharpening yet. I suggest you zoom in at least to 1:1 and do noise reduction. So get rid of noise early in your workflow. So do noise reduction, make sure the noise is reduced the way you want it to be reduced. Then what I suggest you do, go back up to the basic panel, add contrast if you want, add some texture, add some clarity, then do whatever else you want to do, like vibrance, saturation, do that. Then if you're doing tone curve or HSL color or anything like that, do that. Then at the very end, sharpen it with the detail sharpening. Then walk away from your computer, rest your eyes, come back and check it out. And I still think you'll find you're probably going to have to dial everything down a little bit. Right now, this image is over sharpened. It really is. So in my opinion, that's a very big problem, especially with people new to processing their images in Lightroom. Just tone down your sharpening. Sharpening is overrated. It really is. I think, again, because if you're like me, you spent all this money on this camera and you really want to see it perform. So you're really kind of overdoing it. So back that off, and I think you'll find your images will be received much better from people who look at them. All right, the third thing, another thing that I think is kind of obvious, is people tend to oversaturate their images. Now we'll go to this image, and we're going to see it a lot in this time of year. I'm doing this in the fall of the year, and we have a lot of fall scenes, and we really want these fall colors to be vibrant and to be, so colorful. And what happens is it sometimes gets overdone. Now, I have on this image saturation at 20, and to tell you the truth, that's even a bit high for me. And on top of that, I went to the HSL color tab and I added red, orange, and yellow saturation on top of that. So I have it really saturated. And to my eyes, this looks okay. And this is another thing where you may have to walk away from your computer and reset your eyes and brain by focusing on things far away and then kind of resetting things, then coming back and looking at them. Because too often I see people come in, and especially a fall scene where they want these colors to pop, and they just take that saturation and they just throw it way up there. And then we have this kind of hyper-realistic color that just doesn't look right. It really doesn't. So, again, I would suggest you just walk away, come back, and then take a look at it again and reset it. Now, it does help knowing the difference between vibrance and saturation, I believe. In case you don't, saturation will affect every single pixel in the image equally. So if I take saturation all the way down, it will take the color out of every single pixel and I'll have a black and white image. As I move it up, it will add color or saturation to every single pixel equally. Now, if we happen to have a color that is oversaturated, it will just keep saturating it and it will make it oversaturated. So you need to be careful of that because you could oversaturate colors with saturation. It affects every single pixel. Now, vibrance, on the other hand, is a little more subtle. If I take this all the way down, you'll notice we still have a little color in the image, particularly the yellows and the oranges. You'll see just barely, you can see some color in there. That's because it does not affect yellow and orange as much as it does the other colors in an image. It's a better choice if you have a person in the image. If you're doing an environmental or a lifestyle portrait and you have a person in the scene, you're better off adjusting vibrance because it won't saturate their skin as much as it will the other colors. So vibrance is a little better. Also, if you have a color that is saturated, vibrance won't oversaturate. So it will bring a color to saturation, but will tend not to oversaturate the color. Now, it's oversaturating these colors now because, again, I went in the HSL and I added saturation here. So it is tending to do it to this image. So, again, dial down your vibrance and saturation. I've seen many people, many established professionals adjust both of these. They'll turn them both up. There really isn't a need usually to do both. I mean, for a landscape scene, I will usually add saturation. If there's a portrait or a person, I will do vibrance, but I rarely will do both. I prefer to target individual colors with the HSL color tab. So that's the way I go about doing it. You don't have to do it that way. There's no rules, but generally speaking, still just dial it down a little bit. And I think you'll find, again, your images will be better received. Now, those are the three things that I find most troublesome. People often make mistakes with in Lightroom. I'm going to give you a bonus. Most often, I found people don't have a calibrated screen when they're processing their images. And I often get people emailing me saying that they sent an image to be printed and it printed too dark. That is a very common issue, and that's because their screen isn't calibrated. And part of the calibration process is it will adjust the brightness of your screen properly. The other part is adjust the colors, so the colors are proper. Every now and then, not quite as often, I'll get emails from people saying that the colors just aren't what they looked like on their computer. And that, again, is most likely because they're not using a calibrated monitor. Make sure you calibrate your monitor. It doesn't cost a ton, and it's very easy to do. There's no real science involved. It's basically physically putting a sensor on your screen and running an application that will do a routine to measure the brightness, contrast, and color of your screen, and it will automatically adjust everything for you. In the description below the video, I'll have links to a lot of different product that I recommend you use. There's this Datacolor Spider X Pro, which is a newer product. You can see it's $170. This one is $258. You don't have to spend that much. Here's one for $81.99. So I'll have links to a number of different products. Especially if you're doing a lot of printing, if you're sharing your images in an online gallery where you're looking for people to buy them, or you're looking for people to give you work, definitely work from a calibrated monitor. I cannot stress that enough. It really is a requirement. Really, if you're just doing this for fun, you probably don't have anything to worry about. But again, it is important that you have a calibrated monitor if you're going to print your images, if you're going to share your images with the prospect of getting work or selling them. So that's that. Those are the 3 things plus a bonus. Remember, in the description below the video, there'll be a link to that PDF. You could download it for free. While you're down there, if you could do me a favor, subscribe to my YouTube channel and remember to click on that little bell so you get updates. Also, if you like this video, please give it a thumbs up. If you know of anyone that would benefit from watching this video, please share it. And finally, follow me on Instagram. I am at Anthony Morganti on Instagram, and in the description below this video, I'll have a link to that as well. Thank you, everyone who watches my videos. I really do appreciate it. I'll talk to you guys soon.